Okay, I've just begun the recording. Welcome, Alex, Rashed, Imaginer, and Rithik today. Today's a very big day. Number one, this is the 10th of these setup sessions. I feel like that's cause for celebration in itself. 10 weeks of us meeting and covering some of these topics. And also, it's May 1st, so uh, I don't know. It feels like an auspicious day. Um, Anyway, today's a very big topic, a very widely requested topic. We're going to be talking about how to migrate data from a existing Hubs Cloud instance running on AWS over to a Community Edition instance. Now, this doesn't involve any like super fancy tools. It is just the very manual process of transferring data using also a couple of hacks. I'll go into it a little bit more, but we'll be manually transferring data from an existing Hubs Cloud instance. This Hubs Cloud instance happens to be one of the active replica old Hubs Cloud instances, which was the company I worked for, was acquired by Mozilla, and hence why I'm a member of the team. But we'll be using that old server and be going to the Community Edition instance on Google Cloud that we've been building up over the past weeks. Awesome. Before I get started, just a couple of housekeeping items. First, the plan for next week. Alex, I'm glad you're in here. We're working as quickly as we can to release Docker files of our own for all of the constituent Hubs code bases. I know folks are, very interested in creating their own forks and maybe creating their own registries that house those builds of the code bases. So we're trying to get those out as quick as possible. But Alex, it's great to see that you're pretty close to having those self-hosted. Yvonne, I know, is working to do that too. But my plan for next week, hopefully, is to cover that topic, how to self-host every code base. I think there are 10 or 11 code bases that really go into Hubs Community Edition.
There's actually 12, but one of them isn't in use right now.
Is it Spiely Captor? Or Spiel?
Yeah.
No, yeah. Spiely Captor is what it is. Um,
Like you could get it running pretty easily, but it just
yeah.
has to be living on Amazon right now.
I should say we also don't have YouTube downloader running, but I think we might be trying to share our YouTube downloader image. Don't quote me on that, but that might be one we go over as well. Well, of course, we'll focus on the essential ones first, but yeah, cool. And then I also wanted to share, I've updated the documentation. I'm just adding on to the bottom of this, but I've updated the documentation with an April update for kind of the external database work that we did last time. So using a SQL database instead of a Postgres SQL pod, and then and how to set up file store. Cool. So please check that out if you're kind of like looking for docs about how we did that. Awesome. So, returning back to the topic at hand today, a reminder, we're going to be transferring data from an existing Hubs Cloud instance. It's actually this one, activereplica.io. We'll be transferring the data from there over to mydevmoran.com. Before, maybe just kind of set the scene here, if I look at like featured scenes, I can see there are many different scenes, featured avatars. There's actually only one featured avatar, but there are many different avatars. On my existing instance, I think I only have, in terms of data, just a one featured avatar and one approved scene. I don't think I have anything else other than that. So this cow and this cabin. So we'll be on the lookout for kind of how the data changes once we go through it. We should expect to see, and we'll be using the admin panel to kind of test all of this, but we should be able to see all of the same data here over on the new instance. We'll be, as kind of a reminder for any Hubs Cloud developers, when you set up a Hubs Cloud instance, on AWS, you would have created a RDS instance, which is a relational database, and then also a file store, an NFS instance for the actual files themselves. We're, we've basically already set that up in last time's session with this SQL database and then also the Google file store instance. And watch the recording of the previous video if you're having any questions about how to do that. But today we'll be starting with on our community edition instance, just as if we had uploaded one bit of test data, and really our ret DB is pretty much empty and our file store is pretty much empty. But the important thing about this is the convention between Hubs Cloud AWS and Community Edition is the same. We need a database and then we also need a place to store all of our files. And so when we're transferring between the two, it is pretty close to a direct transfer between these two paradigms, a database and a place to store, and a network attached file store, which is NFS. Other things here. And I also say that, we're covering how to move from Hubs Cloud over to Community Edition. This process, while it might not have the exact same steps, is at a high level the exact same as if you were going from a Community Edition instance over to another Community Edition instance. So I know many people are interested in Hubs Cloud transfer, but the process is in many ways the same as if you were going from Community Edition to Community Edition as well. I should also note today kind of how we'll be moving, and maybe I'll draw us a little infographic on the floor here, is we have our Hubs Cloud data, both our file store and our RDS. We're actually going to be going to my MacBook Pro. Let me see if I can try to do like Michael's. I can draw like a picture of a laptop here. Someone else can draw Michael's MacBook Pro. And then we'll be going to our Community Edition instance. Now, the reason why I'm doing this today, there are many more elegant ways of doing it, but the reason I'm doing it today is the way I'm showing should be relatively applicable no matter where you've chosen to host your Community Edition instance. So at the end, we can talk about, why not just avoid having to go through my local device? We could, for instance, set up a Google Cloud bucket for the data, transfer it from Hubs Cloud all the way over to that bucket, and then from the bucket there, so we avoid having to worry about how fast Michael's Wi-Fi is to download all of the data. But the reason why, and I hope to show you, is this method that I'm going to be sharing today is using kubectl as the command to upload to Community Edition instance. And this means that theoretically, any platform that supports kubectl should be able to accept this. So while we'll be showing how to do it on Google Cloud, my hope is that this method, while it's, very flawed, it takes a lot of time, it can be used for anyone who's maybe working on a different platform too. Cool. Any questions just about what we're doing today before I go into prerequisites? Can people hear me? Yes, I see a hat nodding. That's good enough for me.
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay. Any questions? Last call?
I think you have a bunch of developers in this room, so that might be why you're
Cool.
getting crickets.
Cool. Awesome. So let's talk prerequisites here. Like I said, we have a Community Edition instance with a file store set up that Reticulum is connected to, and then also PG Bouncer is connected to our SQL instance. As a reminder, this was all covered in last time's session. I also cover it in this April update in the doc, so look at that if you have any questions about how we have basically provisioned our Community Edition instance to be ready to accept this kind of data. Next, we will be working with a Hubs Cloud instance with, very importantly, with two-factor authentication enabled. Now, why do we need two-factor authentication enabled on our server? This is because oh, sorry, not that. We will be connecting, we'll be executing into our EC2 instance, our Reticulum's EC2 instance on AWS using the method that Hubs Cloud makes available. So this is the admin panel of the Hubs Cloud instance we're using. If I go down to server access, there's a two-factor authentication method. I'm not going to show the QR code here, but if you wanted to set it up, you could use an app like Google Authenticator, click show QR code, and then get that set up. But that is an extra step each time you want to connect to your instance. Now, you'll also, I think you should somehow see it here. You will also, here we go, the SSH private key file. I'll be going through the steps of how to recover this if you need to, but you will also need that to be able to connect to your instance. Any questions about two-factor authentication? And I see True Data IO has asked, would be interested in estimated costs per month to run a typical dev versus production scale instance. Maybe we'll have time to go over that in at the end of the session, but unfortunately I won't. I don't think we'll have time to cover that today, but we have discussed that in previous sessions too. Okay. Uh, okay. We're also going to be using a software called dbeaver, which I believe is open source, but it is a free database visualization tool that allows us to kind of see the data as we're working with it. So before we get started, I do want to show you kind of how you can set up that connection to your SQL instance, which I have here. So to do this, you will need to first open up your instance in Google Cloud. First, you'll need to whitelist your IP to connect to it. You'll go to Connections. You will go to Security. Oh, sorry, not Security. You'll go to Networking. And then you will, if you've enabled everything correctly, you will need to click Add a Network and then give it a name and then give it your local IP address. So that's mine right there to enable it there. And this basically, just lets it know when dbeaver asks to connect that it's able to do so. So I'm going to create a new connection. Once you've downloaded dbeaver, you should be able to follow these steps. Select PostgreSQL. And then I need to fill out a little bit of information here. For host, I need the public IP of my instance. Let me open that here. Database, we'll be using retdb. That's where we'll be wanting to look today. User Postgres is great. Password, this will be the password that you created when you created your instance. I'm going to type this in off screen. Oh, I've lost my interface. Where did it go? Oh, it wanted to... Where did it go? Oh no. I think I might have to quit out and then open it back up. Sorry, folks, 1 second on my part. Okay, let's try this again. Close. Connections, new connection, PostgreSQL, host, the IP, database, retdb, Postgres, and then I think if I type it in, it should be fine, actually. Okay, so type that in. And then last thing, I believe SSL, I do have to select use SSL and then under SSL mode, allow. Then after that, I should be able to click finish and it should be able to connect. So if I select it, what will happen? Great, so I've selected it, I see a little green check mark there. I can open up the databases folder, the retdb folder, schemas, ret0, tables, and then in here we see a ton of tables. Now this is my Hubs Community Edition instance. So if I look at something, what's a good thing to look at? How about scenes? Yeah, let's open up the scenes table. And if I select the data here, great. So we can see that in this table, there's one scene ID. It's the winter cabin. And then if I look on the admin panel, I also have one scene in here, the winter cabin. So just a way to visualize how the data is actually in there. Okay. Any questions about we're going to be using this just to help visualize, but this is a useful tool if anyone needs help kind of like visualizing the database stuff. There's nothing built into Google Cloud that allows you to see data like this. At least not that I'm aware of. Please correct me in the chat if I'm wrong about that. If someone knows better tools. Okay.
Well, you could use PG admin
Yeah.
and connect to it. It's the same kind of idea. It's a GUI.
Yeah. Yeah. Awesome. And then lastly, I want to share a list of a few different dependencies that we'll be using. These all need to be on your device, but it's for the commands that we'll be running. I'm using libsql, and these are the brew formulas. Obviously, I'm on Mac. I think I've shown in the past using homebrew to install stuff, but libsql, libpq, and rsync. I'm going to be using all of those, and we'll need those installed beforehand. Cool. All right, that covers prerequisites. I'm now going to move on to I guess, one other prerequisite, which is I told you that you need this two-factor authentication to be able to SSH into your instance. But what if you've also misplaced the SSH private key file? This is another thing that we need just to be able to get started. Now, when you created your instance, you should have saved this on your device. But I know many of you may have created instances 3 years ago and may have misplaced those. For instance, anyone here already being like, I have no idea where my key pair is? No. Everybody kept perfect files.
Yes, I'm
Thanks, Alex.
thinking that.
Yeah. Okay. So, I'm not going to actually do this today just because I want to save time, but I'm going to walk you through the steps of how you would go through and do this. So, test it out yourself, especially if you've lost your key pair. Don't do this if you actually have the .pem key pair file. For reference, this is what the one I'm going to be using today looks like. All right, but let me step through it here. So I know today I have 3 instances running. I'm just concerned with this first one, this one called Peaceful Warlock. And I can see here that my security group name is AR Demo App. The first thing I'm going to do is go to Autoscaling Groups. I'm going to select AR Demo App, or I'm not going to select it actually. I'm going to select the Launch Configuration Template. It's going to give me an error. It's no longer supported, but you should still be able to use this. It should automatically select that same launch configuration app, but you'll want to find the one that your application is using, that your auto-scaling group is using. Go to Actions, and then click Copy Launch Configuration. You'll have to give it a new name. And then you should be able to keep everything else the same if you're just making a copy. But down here at the very bottom, this is the important part. Instead of choose an existing key pair where it fills out the existing one, you'll want to select create a new key pair, give it a name, and download your key pair here. After that, you'll be able to click create launch configuration. So that's the big thing. Don't leave here without downloading your key pair and making sure you have it. Okay. Once you have downloaded that, you should go back to your auto-scaling groups. You should select your auto-scaling group for your app, which here it's AR Demo App. And then you should go to Launch Configuration, click Edit, and then you'll want to select your launch configuration that you just created. Obviously, I didn't actually create mine, but you will be able to find it here once you've created that. So this is basically switching out the launch configuration that your auto scaling group is using for a launch configuration that you actually have your key pair for. Now, this isn't good enough. We actually need this to take effect before we can SSH into our instance. To do that, we'll go back to instances. We'll select our instance, and then for actions, you should be able to, what should we do? Oh, sorry, no, instance state. If you click terminate instance, your server will spin down, but then the auto scaling group should automatically respawn a new one. And once it has, the launch configuration, the new launch configuration will be used for that spin up, and you should see your key name updated. Any questions there?
Makes sense.
Cool. Okay. So we've gone through all of these prerequisites now. We have our two-factor authentication and our PEM key set up here. So we're all good to go, good to start doing some stuff. So um, the next thing we want to do is we want to first work on creating a SQL dump file, DUMP file, for uh, our Hubs Cloud instance. And this is going to be used on our SQL instance to restore the data. So to do this, we need to execute into our EC2 instance. I have the command written out here, but let me know if you're able to see this. The command is ssh-i. Our path to our key pair, which I'm just going to drag and drop here. And then, sorry, the code moved down to the bottom here. Then space, and then we'll need to have our URL here, which is first our username, Ubuntu, at, and then we need the name of our instance here. It's Peaceful Warlock. Dot, and then our domain name. And today that's activereplica.io. It's going to ask me for my two-factor authentication, which I have running on my phone. Give me a moment while I enter that. I'm using Google Authenticator, by the way, for anyone who's interested. Does someone have a question? No worries. I hear someone clicking. But anyway, we've entered our two-factor authentication, press enter, and now we see this nice little green and purple showing us that we are connected into our instance. So awesome. Next, we need to create a file which will have the instructions for how to create this dump file for our SQL instance. So I'm going to type nano and then type in the name for it. Let's call this pack in go.sh. Oh, I already have it on here. Never mind. Let's call it nano pack in go new.sh, just so I can show from here. And then I'll enter the code here. Where is this? Sorry, I'm grabbing it off notes that I have in Discord. I should note that this is adapted from the pack and go script that is not currently in production. I'll drop that link here. But this is, something that we had been testing out when we were working on moving Hubs Cloud data over to the subscription. Obviously, with the shutdown, we're not going to be doing that anymore, but we've adapted this, basically just taken out everything about the subscription just to create that dump file. So I'll end up sharing the updated code, but just know that it's updated from here, and we basically get rid of lines 36 through 40, and then get rid of the ending here, I believe, the 66 and 67. So I have that all copied over here, and I'm just going to copy and paste it into my file and make sure I have everything here. Um, and so, just to kind of, I'm not going to dissect this completely, but we're creating a SQL database dump. And then at the very end, we're also printing out our secret key and our secret key base. These are the two very important keys that will allow our community edition instance to use the data once we've uploaded it. This secret key is our guardian key in our secrets. Folks would be familiar with, specifying a guardian key in their deployment spec, and then go back here. Secret key base is the PHX, the Phoenix key that we'll be using. So I'm going to Command X, click Y for write the new file. If I ls, I should see pack and go new.sh in there. Cool. Let me go ahead and, yeah. So I'm going to run this command by just going bash pack and go new. In order to get those secret keys and that secret key base, you will need to run sudo bash pack in go new.sh. So you will need sudo in order to print that, but for today's purposes and for demonstration, I'm not going to type sudo. I have it written down already on my device because I don't want to show you all these secret keys. So I'm just going to run bash pack in go new.sh. And we'll see what happens. It should go relatively quickly. Awesome. So we have added, we can see that the secret key and secret key base did not print out. Once again, you will need sudo in order to do that. We can see permission denied here. But then we see this new pgdump.sql file, which is that dump file that we'll be wanting to use. So a quick note here, if you, when you do it on your own, make sure to copy your secret key and secret key base here to be used a little bit later. Just pulling up my notes once more. Awesome. After this, we can exit our connection. So we've created our dump file. Now we actually need to get it from our, we actually need to download it from our EC2 instance onto our computer, which today is Michael's, oh, where'd my drawing go? It left. But we'll be like downloading it from AWS onto my computer today. And to do that, we'll be using the scp command, which I believe the lib, I think it's the one of those important prerequisites is needed to run the scp command. Maybe not though. But here's the command here that we'll be using to get that off. So scp-r-i, the path, oh sorry, -i, the path to our private key pair. And then we'll need to specify our instance name again that will Ubuntu at peacefulwarlock.activereplica.io. And then we need to tell it where to move those files, which today I'm going to just say, move it to my desktop. So I'll just drag and drop my desktop here. All right, so I'm going to run that. Oh, no such file or directory. What has happened? I typed Ubuntu or something. Ubuntu. Let's try that again. Still no such. Oh, sorry, y'all. Not only do we need to specify the URL, we need to specify where on our instance it is. So it's under storage / pgdump.sql. Cool. It's going to ask me for my verification code again. I'll type that in, 585. Oh, I shouldn't read this out loud to y'all. Oh, and it didn't even work. Sorry about that. Awesome. So now it's downloading that pg dump.sql file. I don't know why it's taking so long to download today. That's no problem. It's a pretty small file. So if someone can recreate uh, my image, we've successfully transferred one of those important files from AWS onto my local device. Once this finishes downloading, we'll work on transferring the second important piece of data onto my device. This really is taking a while. Any questions while we wait? Any thoughts? Just positivity.
Depending on the
Thanks.
size of
Thanks, man.
your database, you might want to use rsync over a secure copy, um, because you'll be able to do progress and parts and like partials, and you can still do it
For
all over SSH.
yeah, yeah.
If you have a massive file, is what I'm saying. If you have like a 10 gig database, you probably want to split it up over the network, and that's what rsync is really good at.
Yeah, and I would kind of show y'all how you can maybe at the end of this a more elegant and advanced way is you would need to tool up your retpod and your EC2 instance with, Google bucket ability and then run rsync between that bucket, which I think I'm saying the same thing as you, Alex, that not having to worry about going through your personal computer will probably make the data transfer a lot more stable and go a lot faster.
Yeah, but like you still can do rsync to your local machine is what I was trying to get at. Like
Oh,
you can
gotcha,
still use
gotcha.
the same tool, right? So
Oh, gotcha, gotcha.
and it'll also go over SSH. Like it doesn't have to go over an unsecured connection.
I suppose, and actually, what you're going to see is we actually use rsync to upload the data. We're kind of using two different tools here. It's a little inconsistent, but I suppose you could just use rsync to download it as well. Um,
I'm pretty sure if you run an rsync command locally, it just uses your machine as a cache, but don't hold me to that.
well, you can tell me kind of what I'm doing a little bit later when I run the command to upload. But now on my desktop, I do see a pgdump.sql file, and that's that first big check mark. I'll add a little check mark here for check number one. We've got our first important item in here. Yeah. So now, once again, we need a second item. We need to download the actual files from our EC2 instance onto our device. Now, we don't need to package these before doing it. We're going to be downloading kind of blob storage, and it's going to take quite a while to do. But I'll go ahead and show you how to do that regardless. So it's going to use the same basic command that I ended up using here, scp, to download it. But instead of downloading pgdump.sql, we're going to be downloading um, the uh, the owned file. So maybe before doing that, I'll just show you kind of what data is within a reticulum instance. So it's the same on Hubs Cloud as on a community edition instance. So I'll just show you what it looks like on the community edition instance. If I change I've executed into my reticulum pod. I'm going to change directory to storage. And then if I list what's in there, I can see I have a cached, an expiring, a lost and found, an owned. You won't see an owned new. That's kind of something I've staged up so we don't have to wait for all of the data to transfer today. But you'll see an owned, and then you will not see a PG-SQL, I don't think, as well. So ignore, you should not see either of these, but it should be these main four ones. Um, Cached is for performance reasons. It's not essential to download, but you can if you want to. It's not essential to download those files from there. Expiring, it's a little bit more marginal. These are essentially any objects that have been placed in rooms that have not been pinned to scenes. So it's usually pretty small and might be worth it to download. Lost and found, you can largely ignore, I've found. But owned, this is the really important one, the one that will have a vast majority of the data that you want to get off of there. And for today, we'll just demonstrate how to get that owned file from your instance down on here. So our command will be the same, scp -r-i, our path to our private key pair, ubuntu at peaceful replica.io /. And then here we'll be going for storage and then owned. That's the target. That's the source file that we're going to be downloading. And then for our target, we'll download it. You can pick where. In preparation for this, I downloaded and it took a few hours to download, so I already have it in there. But let me just make a new file, owned demo, that at least I can run this to show you what the download process looks like. So I'll drag that target file, click enter, enter my verification code. Great. It's going to go very slow, but basically you'll just see blobs and JSONs coming through. And like I said, this, let's actually, I just exited the command, but you will have to wait for it to finish. And it can take several hours depending on how much data you have there. Just looking, let's get rid of this one that I just demoed, but looking at the one that I downloaded last night, if I hit space, calculating size, it's about 47.12 gigabytes. So pretty, I mean, not a huge data in terms of like data science world, but or like large language model world, but definitely a large amount of data for a Hubs Cloud instance, I would say. Anybody else have more data to on their instances? Maybe not. Anyway, most Hubs Cloud users, I would be surprised if they have that much data in there, but you never know. Um, awesome. So once this completes, you'll see a huge list of these blobs and JSONs downloading. But once it completes, you should have a file that you've specified on your device with all of that data. So that's successfully transferred the second. We've successfully transferred the backup file for our SQL database, and then the actual files themselves from Hubs Cloud over to my MacBook Pro. Awesome. So now we need to begin the second half, the back half of this, going from my MacBook Pro over to our Community Edition instance. And Alex, this is here where I'm going to be using rsync instead. But like you said, I think you probably can just use rsync as well. But I don't know why I chose to use that here. So we'll start with the SQL backup, that first resource, that pgdump.sql file. We're going to be uploading that to our SQL instance here. Excuse me, I'll cough in a little bit. So just for, if you named it anything different, I'm going to go ahead and name this one owned new. When you transfer this, your Reticulum storage will already have an owned file. And just for, safety, it might be good to upload this file as owned new and then change it once it's finished uploading. I've just found that that's, safer in case the connection fails or something weird happens. So just for sanity, I've chosen to change the name from over to owned new as I'm doing the upload, but I'll change it back once the upload is complete. Alrighty. Now I'll release this a little bit later, but by default, we you know, there's a helpful script that we can use to wrap our sync that will uh, might make things go just a little bit quicker and a little bit safer. And to do this, I'm going to create a file. Let me change directory to my desktop so that we can see it here. So I'm going to nano, and we'll call this KR sync. I did not write this code. I got it off of Stack Overflow, but it was very useful to use. I'll be sharing it later. In fact, I'll put this in our community edition. I'll put it right in our community edition thread. Once again, I did not write this. I got it out of Stack Overflow, but it's basically just a wrapper to help kind of with rsync and Kubernetes executing into the pods. Let me also quickly paste the code for the pack and go script in here. One moment. Okay. Come on back real quick. I'll move this guy over. Okay. So this file, I'll just kind of copy and paste that code in there. Once again, it's just a wrapper for rsync that helps out a little bit. Paste it in there, save and exit. So if I ls, I should see kr sync in here. I'm going to use this with my command to run everything. Let me do this here. So my also, as you're creating this script, you might have to change, you might have to give it permission to execute. So I'll do chmod plus x and then kr sync just beforehand. You might have to do that depending on your device. Okay, let me see here. Okay, so the command itself, we can do bash or just dot kr sync dash av dash progress dash stats, and then we need to select our source, which is that owned new repo, or not repo, but folder on here. So that's our source folder, and then our target folder. And here we need to specify the SSH, not the SSH, the reticulum pod that we'll be connecting to. Let's quickly actually look back here. I said at the beginning, it's a little weird to be doing this, downloading to your computer and then uploading after. The real benefit is that we use kubectl to execute into the pod for the upload. So rather than having to, do this tooling up, executing into your reticulum pod and tooling up, a bucket, we can just download to our computer, and anyone with access to kubectl can upload. So once again, that's the reason why we're doing it this strange way today. It's mainly for platform agnosticism, I should say. Cool. So we've specified our source. Let's finish specifying our target, which is that reticulum pod. So we'll need our pod name. I'll be using this one. Also, if people are weirded out by me having two reticulum pods, I don't know why Lens has this one stuck on terminating. I should try and delete that a little bit further, but don't worry about that one. So our reticulum pod, we can also do at our namespace, which I'll for me is HCC Mike Moran, colon, and then I'll be selecting the storage folder. So just like we downloaded it from storage, we'll upload it to storage as well. Great. And if I run this, it's basically going to go through the same blob transfer as well until the owned new folder has finished. I'm not going to run it just because I don't want to overwrite any of the data in here, but it will take likely, it'll go a little bit faster, I think, than SCP, but it will take basically the same amount of time, depending on how much data you have to upload it to your through your reticulum pod to your NFS instance. Cool. It might take a few hours, and then at the end of it, you should be able to see owned new on your database here. Cool. Let me check.
Can I see that command again?
Yeah. krsync AV progress stats source and then target.
I think if you add a capital P after the V, you should be able to get partials sent over through rsync.
Mm-hmm. What is, can you explain that to me?
So if the command crashes, it will pick up where it left off.
Oh, nice, nice. Gotcha. So a helpful tip to add in as well. Cool. So I realized I've just shown how to upload our owned new. As this is going, we also need to upload our PG dump file as well. Let me find that here. Great. And to do this, we're not using rsync to just upload files. We're actually going to give the command to back up the database as we're doing it. Real quickly, as that's happening, we can go ahead. Actually, sorry, y'all. I'm getting a little scrambled. Okay, I see that there. Thank you, Alex, for clarifying. It would be -P. Before I move over to SQL, I do want to finish up with one thing here, which is after we've uploaded all of our data, I just want to go through the last steps to wrap this up before changing directions. So like I said, we'll be uploading an owned new file while we already have an owned file. I'm just going to swap these out. So I'll change owned to owned old, and then change owned new to owned. So I'll mv owned new to owned. Awesome. And if I cd into each of those, if I look inside of owned, I can see, I have from 000 all the way to FF. If I go back and look at owned old, I can see I only have, a few bits of storage here. So quite a bit less than before. So I've successfully swapped out my owned new and my current owned folder. That's great. Last thing we need to do on the files themselves is we need to change out our keys as well. And this can be done in the reticulum. I think it's actually in the deployment spec itself, but I'll be using, with Lens, I can just go to configs and I can edit it in here. So once again, this corresponds the secret key base, or is that what it's called? Yeah. The secret key corresponds with the guardian key, and then the secret key base corresponds with our Phoenix key. So that's this PHX key, and then our guardian key. So I'm going to do that off screen, just so that we don't run into any issues. Okay, I think I've got it. Go ahead and hide those again. So once again, it's your secret key that goes to your guardian key, and then your secret key base that goes to the Phoenix key. Awesome. Let's see here. Now let's go. Sorry, anything to say, Alex? Is that you?
Oh, I was just gonna say we're missing like the database and the data. So your Phoenix key and Guardian key are kind of useless to everyone.
Oh, so I shouldn't worry about being too private about it.
Yeah, well, unless you're gonna keep that Hubs Cloud instance up and running,
Well, I
then
am.
then you're
So
good.
for the short term
Yeah.
at least. So I'm just being a little bit stingy with my credentials. Sorry about that.
So
Um,
I'm not asking to see them. I was just saying we're
you're
missing
really
half of
twisting
them.
my arm here, Alex. I'm joking. Um,
Send me your PEM key. Send me the PEM key.
so I will drag and drop it. Um, okay. Okay, last step. So we've uploaded our files. Let's now upload our uh, PGSQL dump. And when I say that, let's actually run the command that restores it to our instance here. So this command, let me find it here. First, we will need our public IP address, and it will also help if you have, uh, just as we did when we were setting up dbeaver, under connections, if you haven't set up dbeaver, you'll want to add your network so that when you make this request, it gives it the green light. Okay. And then the command in our terminal is, where did I write it in my notes? One moment. Okay. Um, you will need to download all of the prerequisites to be able to use it, especially I think it's the libpg one is the important one for this one. But the command is psql postgres Postgres as the protocol. We're just using kind of a connection, a database connection URI. Postgres as the username, your password. Um, my password is not password for this instance. I'll swap it out before running the command. Our host name, which is that public IP address. And then, what else here? I just lost my place in my command. Oh, yeah. And then ret db is what we'll be uploading. We need to specify the database there. This looks very similar to our, the connection URI that PG Bouncer connects to. And then we need to specify a file, which is -f, and then the pathway, sorry, not IF, need -f, and then the pathway to our .sql file. Great. I'm going to adjust my password and then run this off screen. I'll be right back. I hear chat messages popping. I'll get those in just a second. Okay. And here we can see just a bunch of tables are being created. My, my table already exists, but it's swapping out all of the data in there, or at least it should be. This is also a good moment to add, and I might actually even show us go through the process again. I had written some data to my database, and that's why I'm getting all of these errors because the database tables already exist. You might just want to, before connecting your reticulum pod, before connecting your reticulum pod to your database through PG Bouncer, you might just want to go ahead and run this on a fresh, right after you create your ret DB database. Um, that way you won't, run into any of these errors, but I think we'll see here that it should be okay. It might not be actually. Um, let's see here. Yeah, it looks like it might not be very happy, but we can check after this is complete. It shouldn't take too long. It looks like it's not too happy, but we can check our tables once this is finished to make sure that everything is okay here.
I think all the commands that are erroring out are ones that are trying to create tables or alter tables that exist. I think you're right there, Michael. And all the copies are what is the data.
Hmm. Yeah, hopefully it's just the data that's being updated. But let's actually look in dbeaver now to see here. So I'm actually going to refresh my connection before doing this. And then in tables, if I went to avatars, I would expect to see a big list, but I actually don't in here. I might need to connect my reticulum. Let me also disconnect once, reconnect. Oh, no, it's back. So now looking at my tables, I have a whole big list of stuff in here. So if we go to schemas, let's go to avatars, for instance. Oh, why do I? Scenes worked, but avatars didn't. Why did I still have this animal cow? Hmm. See hubs here. Yeah, nothing on hubs yet. Let me do one thing to test this out before we go back, delete retdb, and then run this command again, which is I'm just going to scale down my reticulum deployment. Or sorry, not reticulum. Yeah, I'm going to scale down reticulum PG bouncer, uh, reticulum PG bouncer, and PG bouncer T. Okay, those will take a moment to finish going down. I'll make sure my pods are gone. Still terminating. Okay, reticulum is gone, PG bouncer and PG bouncer T are gone. I'm going to scale them back up. And what I would expect is maybe to see a data migration script on, or not script, but some notifications on reticulum for data migration um, if it's coming up with a new set of data. So let's see here. I'm just watching my reticulum logs as it comes back online to see if it reconfigures all of that. I honestly don't think it will. I think, Alex, that we might have needed to use a fresh instance of retdb before changing things over.
Yeah, I think there's a way to overwrite data, but that can get dangerous.
Yeah. So let's do that. Let me look at dbeaver again, but I'm pretty sure we are going to have to redo that because scenes worked, but everything else didn't. Hmm.
Go search in the terminal for uh, avatars or one of the tables that you're looking at that didn't work.
Sorry, in the terminal.
Yeah, where you did the actual import in that terminal window. Just
Mhm.
Command F, and then you can search for avatar.
Insert or update on table violates foreign key. So I'm pretty sure I'm not an expert on this, but I'm pretty sure that might be a bad issue here because this happened in the
Yeah,
middle of the copy section, which if it looks like avatars had trouble, avatar listings, hubs had issues, but Maybe some others didn't, since some of them did successfully copy. I think it just depends on, you know, maybe projects would be an interesting one to look at. Let's open projects here. Nothing for projects. Did that have trouble too? Yeah, projects had trouble too. So I think we do. I'm sure there
Yeah,
are ways to overwrite, but for today, I'll just show how to do it on a fresh DB.
it's a like a foreign key constraint is what it looks like.
Hmm.
There's a key that's missing.
Hmm. Um, so that might be an issue with the kind of the pack and go script. Okay, let me delete the database and then I will run it again. So I'm going to scale down my PG Bouncer and PG Bouncer T deployments because you cannot delete a database if there uh, are active connections to it. So I'll scale both those down. Delete retdb. Obviously, this is a destructive action, so don't do it if you don't have a backup. Why is it? Should have scaled everything down. Maybe let me try again. Maybe it wasn't. I did it too early. Hmm. Let me make sure I'm not connected anywhere, just in case. Oh, sorry. dbeaver is the culprit here. I think I need to disable that connection before doing it. Awesome. Okay, so it was dbeaver that was standing in the way of that. I'll just wait there. I'll create a fresh retdb database once that is done. Awesome. And then before scaling PG Bouncer back up, I'm going to run that upload command again. I just showed my password on there. I'll have to delete that in post. I've made a lot of security issues today. Delete that. I typically, during these sessions, mark down when I've made mistakes that I have to go back and edit out, but I haven't been doing a good job today. Okay, so I'm not seeing any errors here. You know, it's likely creating most of the tables. What else? Right, it's beginning the copying part. I'm not seeing any errors in the copying section, which is really good. Okay, and we're done. I should note this RDS admin role. This is a relic from AWS RDS, so it's okay if you see this error. I've seen it each time I've been uploading here, so don't worry about that too much. But everything else I saw, no errors. Let's now connect. Well, before we connect and look at it, we will need to spin back up our PG bouncer, and we should now see the data migration once it goes through that process. So PG bouncer T coming back on. I'm going to look at my reticulum pod logs. It was having a lot of trouble connecting at first. In fact, I think I need to scale it down and scale it back up. Okay, reticulum is gone. I'm going to scale it back up. Okay, let's look at the pod logs as it's going through this. I'm expecting to see a big chunk of data migration stuff, but we'll see. Yeah, okay. So we have a lot of messages here about ret0 entities being created. That's really good. Okay. Looking promising. I'm going to reconnect dbeaver here and take another peek. Oh, yeah, I see a lot of projects in here, which is good. Let me open databases, ret0, tables. I have all my tables, which is great. If I go to avatars, I have a huge list of avatars. That's all really good stuff. What else in here? If I look into hubs, I have a huge list of hub IDs, which is really good. What else? Yeah, scenes as well. So it looks like most, if not all, data has been successfully transferred over. Let's now take a look at our admin panel. I think I've gone through all of the steps. So let's open up devmoran dot. I'll use Spoke to sign in. This is just kind of a funky little quirk about the old active replica server that I need to use Spoke. Accepting my email. Already going to that email verification, things are looking very promising because I can see these active replica logos, and those are files. That's a really good sign here. So I've signed in. I'm now going to go to admin. Now, the admin styling and build is different. This is because we're running a newer code base than the old active replica server. But if we go to things like, let's go to featured avatars here. There should just be one, this vertex avatar. If I go to that on the old instance, there's also this vertex avatar, looking really good. Featured scenes, it looks the same. Yeah. So, I mean, we can talk and look a little bit deeper into this. It'll be important for us to talk a little bit about the quality of the data that we've, or not the quality, but one key vulnerability in the data we've transferred over. But we've gotten both of our important assets now from my MacBook and usable on my new instance. Um, Another important test, I can go back to this, and just by going to my root domain, I know Active Replica for this server had this homeroom scene as the default scene, and here it's the same, whereas my old instance did not have a default room set. Here we can see that Active Replica has, and should load okay, but we'll see. It might take a little bit. Awesome. Any untested but Add inserts. Oh, cool. Um, any questions? I also realized I've missed one key important thing I skipped over. Um, maybe I'll talk about that I before I open it up for questions. Um, Rewind your minds back to when I was uploading all of that storage to my reticulum pod using that rsync command, if you remember. Let's look here. I'll open the file here, and if we look back inside of it, it's basically executing into the pod and then running rsync from within that pod. Now, by default, your pod may not have rsync installed onto it. So, an important prerequisite would be to run apk add rsync to install that dependency. So, I did there. I believe each time you delete your pod, you might. I think you can specify it in the actual deployment spec so that you always have rsync. But since we're only doing this process once in a while, just use apk add rsync on your reticulum pod when you're ready to upload. Cool. Questions? Thoughts?
Yeah, hi.
Yes.
Um, I was fiddling with the database dump today because I wanted to do some cron job of backing up. And what I kind of found out is that you have different types of PG dumps, like PG dump all, PG dump, and then there is something, a flag you can do that says -C, and I think this would be the trick if you want to override the database if it's existing. With the
Gotcha.
when you already do the dump, that you do the -C. I don't know if you talked about it before because I came in later, but this is just what I was thinking.
If you
That
could
will do a
share
clean
that.
install.
Oh, go ahead.
Sorry, Michael. That dash C is just the short form for dash clean or dash dash clean,
Yeah.
which yes will overwrite the database, but it will wipe everything in the database. So just be careful there.
And yeah, because I'm not quite done yet because I haven't managed to do the cron job because it only worked with PG dump. And I didn't get it to work with PG dump all because of some password issues. I don't know. So would you recommend to try to just use PG dump without wiping everything then?
Are
Well,
you saying
PG
on
dump isn't going
creating
to
the
wipe any.
dump, or PG dump is for the
Well,
actual dump itself, I believe.
Yeah.
exactly. When I'm trying to like do a daily cron job to make a database dump, so I could jump to an older version. Well, maybe if something goes wrong or something, so that I have multiple dumps available to go back to. So this is not exactly like yet for migration right now. It is just for having an instance running and doing a cron job on a PG dump to an NFS server so that I can refer to all the dumps later on. That's what I was trying today.
So here's the command that we do use. So it's in the
Oh
script
yeah.
here, basically. Here's the command
Oh cool.
right here. And then it happens in here. Here's where in the actual script it's asking to run this, but the command is right here. It's just a connection URL, and then it is using pgdump for that.
And you're running the script from outside or from inside the Postgres pod or from
Yeah,
outside?
of course, there are many ways you could mix and match it, but for today, when we demoed, we SSH'd into our Reticulum's EC2 instance on Hubs Cloud and then ran We manually created that file and then ran it from within there to create the dump file.
Oh,
So
okay.
there are much more sophisticated ways to do it, but I think the goal for today is to show the most manual, kind of spelled out way of doing it. I'm sure you might even be able to use the AWS interface to get a dump file as well. But I haven't, I'm not familiar enough with AWS backups to be able to create that.
Is your goal to be able to like rebuild the database somewhere else that isn't on Amazon? Or like what's the goal
Yeah,
of the dump file?
exactly. I'm on DigitalOcean, and I created a droplet that is an NFS server outside of my cluster,
Yeah.
and I'm doing a database dump to there. And yeah, I managed to do it, but not with only with I think it's
So
just a
yeah, if
pip dump command. Yeah.
yeah, just use the dump command there, and then when you want to restore it, that's when you would be using the dash C. But that will wipe out anything that's in that current database that you're trying to import into or
Yeah.
restore to. So just know
Okay,
that.
because there are also two. Uh, there's this pg restore command
Yeah.
that's actually to restore, and you can restore with a psql command too.
Yeah, the restore and dump are wrappers, I believe. They're just commands that wrap the like dump process and
Uh,
the restore process for you. So under the hood, it's definitely using like the PG commands, like like the command line stuff that's needed there. So the like in my experience, using dump is better than the all because you'll get like a lot of like random user data and stuff that you don't need to restore the actual database that you're looking for. So I would look at the docs and just the difference between the two because you might want the all like everything there, or you might just want the tables and stuff. So you can send me a DM on Discord if you want to chat about this.
yeah, thanks.
Any any other questions before we move on to? I need to talk about a very important consideration here, and we'll see if we can get through kind of the way to fix it. But any other questions before we move on to that? So, um, the good news is what we've just walked through, we've made copies of our databases and successfully moved them to another instance. This is really important to be able to maintain your Hubs Cloud instance data all good. It can be very annoying because let me find a project here. I'll just download a spoke file using the admin panel and open it with the text editor here. So I'm going to open it with text edit. If we look in here, I'm going to search for active replica. Now what you'll see here is that there is a lot of references to ardemoassets.activereplica.io. So while we have successfully rehosted those files, like let's take this one for example, I'll try and zoom in here. AR demo. So I'm going to grab this file right here, this GLB file. I have no idea what it is, but if I open that, it's going to allow me to download it. That's the AR demo assets activereplica.io. So that's still pointing to the asset hosted on my Hubs Cloud instance. Now, as part of doing this, we have successfully rehosted all of our files. So if I go to devmoran.com/the same files and a unique ID, I'll also be able to download it. So we've successfully made a copy. However, every spoke file is still referencing that asset hosted on Hubs Cloud. So this could be very annoying if, the good news is the files have been transferred over. You haven't lost the data. Like let's walk through the hypothetical. Immediately after doing this, I decide I'm done with my Hubs Cloud instance. I shut it down. I delete all of the databases. I feel like I'm done. I don't want to have to pay for that running simultaneously. I have not lost the ability to recover that because I successfully did make a copy of all of the files. However, all of the spoke files and even the pinned media in the rooms might still be pointing to assets hosted on old files. Um, do people understand how I'm kind of describing that problem here? If I were to open that spoke file, oh, well, let's not say if, let's go ahead and do it. Let me maybe find a better spoke file here, actually. I'm being a little bit choosy here. Okay, how about this one? Spoke file. I don't know whose project this is, if this was created by the Active Replica team or some user using our servers. I'm going to import the Spoke Legacy project, select that one. Cool. And then if I look in the hierarchy here, and I select a GLB model, in the model URL, I can still see that's pointed to the old asset. So that's what I'm trying to illustrate here is the issue that we're having here. Awesome. Okay. I've not tested this, but I want to give it a try to see if we can figure it out. Hubs has a method for rehosting this that I believe was written maybe back in 2021 that has just never been either merged or publicly shared. And I want to share the reference to it here. I don't know if this is. Oh, it's a bad URL. Oh, because I have a 1 in front of it. Is this? I can't tell if this is on a different thing, but there's this rewrite assets API link, and let's trace this a little bit to follow it around. So I'm gonna look for the rewrite assets controller on, and I believe the rewrite assets controller is on. Oh no, here we go. Okay, so the rewrite assets controller is attached to this RetWeb API internal. And basically, it rewrites the host name for all room objects, projects, and scenes. Um, and we can see there on each of those room objects, projects, and scenes, there is a method for rewrite domain for all. And I believe it differs depending on where it's attached to. Let's see here. It's not letting me search through here. We can look a little bit. Well, let's go ahead and look into that. I forgot where. RetWeb. Under schema. Here, I might be able to search it better through here. Rewrite domain for all. So we have it in this project Elixir file, we have it in this room object Elixir file, and then we have it in this scene Elixir file. So scene, I believe, is attempting to update all of the mentions of a pinned object in the scene. Oh, sorry, no, that's room object. Sorry about that. Scene, I believe. I might need to do a little bit more digging. It might just be pointing y'all in the wrong direction. All this to say, though, there is a method to rewrite this that we just haven't, shown and released, and I believe it might be on a branch that, or not a branch, but I don't know if it's fully merged in here. Let me give it a shot here. Yeah, So it looks like it was created 2 years ago, and I believe this is in master. It should be. Yeah, I believe it's in master. Okay. So I've been given some instructions by Gung that I'm going to be able to show, and if we don't, end up successfully doing this today, I can follow up next week with a more definitive answer. I did not have time to prepare this in addition to preparing the other stuff as well. But I believe I need to point. I believe I need to run this command, which is curl -h, and then give this header. Where is it here? xret dashboard access key. And this is not currently parameterized, but this is actually in our config map for Reticulum. Okay, so it's right here. This dashboard access key is what it should be. And it's not currently parameterized, but let's see here. So currently there's no method to specify it, but you can update this in your config map. So I believe I actually literally just need to write dashboard access key. In fact, just to avoid any issues with characters, let's update our config map for ret. Let's update our dashboard access key. Okay. I'm gonna give it something a little bit random. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Perfect. Totally secure. And click save. And then I'll scale down my reticulum pod and scale it back up. People still with me?
Yep.
Cool.
Yeah, here.
Okay. So it's coming back on. I just wanted to update that. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. I just wanted to update that so that I know for sure what it is. If I look in my config map, I should be able to see that. Yeah. Okay, so curl -h, we'll give it that header. We'll also need to give it, I believe, this argument here, which should be an object of, what do I have here? I think you need to specify an old domain. And for now, that will be assets. Gosh, what was it? Assets dash AR demo assets, and then a new domain. Here, I'm also specifying a GLB here. I should not be doing that. 1 second. New domain should be devmoran.com. Okay. And then our URL, we'll be sending this to devmoran.com. Sorry, HTTPS. API internal. Any concerns, Alex? Or whoever?
I'm just wondering, shouldn't the Shouldn't the new domain be assets.devmirand.com, not devmirand.com?
So let's take that use case. I need to look a little bit deeper into it, but I believe here the old asset was hosted on this asset URL, but the new asset is just accessible. It's not accessible at assets.devmirand.com. It should just be accessible at devmirand.com.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Yeah. But I might be wrong about that. Honestly,
No, I think you're right. It's because of the ingress, and then technically the assets
yeah,
is the hub's container. So
yeah. It does it a little bit differently than Community Edition and the subscription for that matter. Okay, and so this is the pathway. It should be https.com API internal v1 rewrite assets. Let's give it a shot. Page not found. Uh-oh. Um, hmm. Just verifying that I have it written out correctly here. Rewrite assets, and it does take a old domain, new domain, new domain. Okay, so that shouldn't be an issue. It looks like it's just if folks have thoughts, please chime in because I haven't successfully tested this yet. I thought I'd give it a swing while we're all here together. Let me maybe just put this in quotation marks just in case. Also not found. Does anyone know how to test if that API is even on there or how to see that?
do you not want to do that inside of the rep pod?
Have you turned it?
Sorry, Alex, I heard you say inside of the rep pod, and then someone else suggested something that was a little bit garbled. I could do it from inside of the rep pod, I think. Just local.
Yeah, I think curl is installed there. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Curl. Let's copy it. And it should be localhost or 127.0.
Uh, it'd be like 4,000, wouldn't it?
Mm-hmm.
You'll have to run it inside of the actual rep pod, not
Oh,
on your laptop.
what am I doing? Sorry about that. I'll copy that. Okay. Okay, so curl is not found on here. APK add curl. Perfect. Certificate prob. Oh, sorry, y'all. Let's go back.
Just add a dash capital K to your command. Or maybe it's a lowercase k. It should get rid of the SSL check.
Oh, internal server error.
Look at the ret logs now.
Yeah, good call. Yes. Failed to send sentry event. Cannot.
Is there a way to make like ret more verbose in its logging? I've never actually seen a way to do that in the configs.
Uh, I have no idea actually. Um, Let me just try and put my just in case I'm putting my oh, nothing returned. Let's see, repods sent 401.
Add a dash V to your curl command. I think it should output more than. Oh, add the content type application JSON
Oh,
instead
I
of
have to add
because
that header. Let me,
yeah.
yeah. It's actually right in here if I want to grab it. Content type. Does it have to be a object, or is it just a?
No, it should be a string with curl.
Did I specify that correctly? I always forget. Okay, I might need to. Oh, I also haven't written post in this. That could
Oh,
also be
yeah, that would
a
probably help.
significant issue.
Yeah. Leave that alone for now. Just add the dash X post
I'm just
info.
gonna uh, copy
It,
paste this in
like
here.
it did accept it, so I don't think the actual capitalization matters.
Okay. Well, now I've done it. Now I've removed it completely.
Yeah, just paste it. Paste it.
I'm trying to, but it's not letting me.
Just copy that like
Copy.
with X post as well.
It's not working. Oh my gosh. I will copy it from here again. Well, I know this is painful for everyone. I'm just gonna type it out now. I'm gonna move this to a separate screen and type it out. Content type colon application JSON. And then it should just be dash X post. Yeah,
It's a capital X.
we got that as well. Okay. Okay. What happened?
It doesn't like that API key.
Mm-hmm.
Try getting rid of the quotations around it.
Sorry, everybody. I'm also not very skilled at command line navigation. Is there a way to skip back to the front of the command line?
Yeah, it's Control A.
Control A. Thank you. Let's try this again. Oh, maybe let's check my red logs.
Looks like it's doing something.
Mm-hmm. Postgres, nothing in Postgres.
It hasn't gotten a response yet, which is good.
Mm-hmm.
And considering you have like 50 gigs of data, it's probably going to take a while to go rip through all those Spoke projects.
Oh, internal server error. Why? Why? Uh, Interesting. CSP issue. Let me look back at ret.
It's probably because you're using the local host.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Oh, wait, no, it's trying to.
Hmm.
It's
No
trying. It
function.
looks like it's trying to. Is it replacing or trying to replace the file that already exists?
No, because let me show you. We'll trace this here. Write domain for all in these typically points to a create new owned file method right here. So it's going. It looks like it's going in the right place, but it's having trouble with this create new owned file with. Was it calling with replace string? Yes, it is. Um, so it looks like it's going in the right direction, but what's the issue here? No function clause matching. Does that not exist? Surely not.
Yeah, there's no function for it. Oh, wait, that is the function.
Hmm. Anyway, I think this is something I haven't tested out before, so we might need to look at it a little bit more in depth. But all this to say, this method, I believe, is going to be the way to do it. And so the steps will be the same. I think the feature will just actually function so that you don't have to worry about manually going through and changing those. That being said, if you absolutely need to, you and all of your users can go through and just change each of these to Dev Moran. Don't actually use Dev Moran yourself, but whatever your new domain is, and it will work. It's just a real hassle to go through and do that. Cool. Trying to think of anything else to cover. At the very end here, I'll just say the same thing again about how, this is a very manual way of going through this process, and there are more elegant ways of doing it for people who want to look into the tools that work for the specific uh, source and destination they're going from. Like one option I had considered showing today was using a Google bucket, um, Google Cloud bucket, which you could use rsync to go between. You would basically be going from your computer or from Reticulum's EC2 to the Google Cloud bucket, and then to your NFS on your Kubernetes that's connected to your Reticulum pod. Um, that being said, I chose not to show that today because it would involve showing how to tool both your Reticulum EC2 instance and your Reticulum pod with those compatible features. But maybe I can just share a tutorial link if you do want to pursue that. Yeah. So here you can see kind of different methods of using rsync with Google Cloud buckets. And of course, you would need to make sure that your instance has these Google Cloud commands available to it. Drew, I see 5 minutes ago you can't see my shared screen. Can other folks see my shared screen?
I've been able to see it the whole time.
Okay, cool. Well, sorry, Drew. Um, awesome. So I hope this has been useful. I understand if people feel kind of like a lot of information to take in. I am planning to write a guide covering these steps, likely tomorrow to release, kind of covering it. And as always, I'll release this video as soon as I can. I think I have a few places I need to edit out, maybe where I've shared passwords or, things I shouldn't have. But um, I hope this has been useful, and I'm very excited to finally be able to have a method for people to do. I was very excited to get my data moved off of a Hubs Cloud instance and onto a Community Edition instance. It was quite exciting to finally see that.
Thanks, Michael.
Yeah, yeah, no problem. Any last questions before I end the recording? Well, with that, I'm going to end the recording.